and welcome to Fat Man on Batman. I am all by myself in my house because Kevin is out in the world. Hey everybody. Hey gang. What's going on? Hello. My name is Marc Bernardin, and this is Fat Man on Batman. This is not the Scum and Villainy Cantina because Kev is somewhere in the world doing Kev shit. Are my glasses weird? Are they glaring too much? All right, we'll fix that. So what we're gonna do today is a bit of a Q&A. And, every now and again I'll do that on Twitter and just say, hey, for now we'll answer questions and answer a shit ton of questions. But now, fuck it, let's do it on video. Let's do it Instagram. Let's do it live. Like the kids fucking do it. Let's kill it. I am ready to answer any and all of the above questions you may or may not have. Whenever you guys are ready, fire away. Before that, I will give you a tiny tour of my office, which is probably a mess. It's definitely a mess because I'm a bit of a messy guy. So this is, I got my Hey Kids comic rack. I got a bunch of fucking comics back there. I got, what's this over here? So my Inkpot Award and my Black Panther thing. Hey. Okay. There was a question back there. Let's see. Since it's unlikely that Disney will bring back James Gunn, who would you like to see direct Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? I am still going to stick with James Gunn. I think they might bring him back. I think there's definitely a world in which the and it's totally possible that they can realize, oh yeah, we made a mistake. This was a bad call. We're going to recorrect the mistake we made. If not that, I think there is a world in which the Russos sort of jump in. I don't think they're committed to anything Marvel-wise post Infinity War 2. And they've directed the Guardians before. They know the world. And they can definitely deliver a movie. So I think that is definitely possible. Let's see. That was a question from J Hill 1181. Colleen in TV Land wants to know when we are getting more Genius. The way it's looking, I think it's going to be spring of next year, maybe, possibly, hopefully. Adam Freeman and I, my co-writer, are ready to go. We know the story we're going to tell. We know where everything is going to go, potentially where everything wraps up. So I think if we can get the green light from our publisher, we're going to start writing. And if we start writing, we can be done in a couple of months and have an artist ready to rumble. And so, I think spring is optimistic. Late spring, like May, is optimistic, but possible. Probably more like summer, but I don't know, maybe. Let's see. The Rob Espinosa wants to know how many episodes in the first season of Castle Rock. That is 10. 10 episodes. My episode, the one that my name is on, that I co-wrote with a guy named Vinny Wilhelm, is episode 6. So that is in 2 weeks. Holy shit, it's in 2 weeks. 2 weeks! Let's see. Jay Gonzalez wants to know, what's the process in the writing room for Castle Rock? Wow, that is a big question. That is a long question because the writing room itself is a very. Do you see my product placement in the back there for the Highwaymen? Yeah, I'm always on the money. It is a long process. We were in the room for 4.5 months, I think. And the process in any writer's room, basically, it's a big to little process. Here's the big story we're telling, a season-wide story. Then you decide, all right, we're happy with where we're going to start and where we're going to end, and here's some stuff we want in the middle. Then you break it down into episodes. If there's 10 episodes in the season, it's like, now what happens in each one of those 10 episodes? How are we going to begin to plant the signposts and the trail guides along that way that help us get to that endpoint? And then from episodes, you go into scenes. And then it's, all right, what are the 40 scenes that are in this episode of TV? What happens in each one of those scenes? Who's in those scenes? What is the plot energy we're trying to convey? What is the emotional energy we're trying to drive? What is the character evolution we're trying to begin to explore? And from there, it'll go off to a writer Because in that room, everybody who's on the staff, everybody who's in the writing staff is in that room at the same time. And once you get down to the scene level and everybody agrees with everything that's happening, everybody's had their chance to give notes and to contribute, then the individual writer of that episode goes off and writes the outline based on that scene breakdown. And then what'll happen after that is that guy goes over and writes a script. And then that script, after a couple of weeks, gets delivered back to the room. We all read it. We all give notes. And then it is out of our hands. Then it goes off into the production giant locomotive, which will kill itself to make a show happen. So that is the largest. That is the shortest way to explain precisely how a writer's room works. Let's see. Gyro Captain 94 wants to know, what is one movie I think should be remade? A single movie that I think has some value, because, I mean, I don't want to remake a good movie, because what's the point? If it's a good movie, it's a good movie. Why monkey with something that's great? But it would have to be a movie that has some inherent quality that makes it worth making as a movie, but that they somehow got wrong the first time. What movie do I think should be remade? See, if we were in the cantina now, this would be the time where Kevin answers first, and I think of something, and then I have those 4 minutes to be like, oh shit, that's it. I know. You should do blah. But I don't quite have the blah on the top of my head. It's funny. I was about to say Excalibur, because I honestly think that since Excalibur, there hasn't been a great King Arthur movie, which is weird, I think, because it's such a bulletproof story, and it resonates with a bunch of people. And they've tried. Oh Lord, have they tried? But nothing has quite come close to Excalibur, which itself isn't even like a perfect movie. But there's a lot to recommend. It is an art house film that also happens to have blood and guts and nudity and charms of making and shit. But and I liked King Arthur: Legend of the Sword, but not quite enough. So yeah, I'll go Excalibur, because why not? The Peter Sherlock wants to know if I would ever collaborate with Kev on a project. Yes. And I cannot say any more than that. Let's see. Michael Bookman, would you want Phil Coulson to have a twin brother who can save his life, named FBI agent Mike Casper? That is not bad, especially given that I'm watching The West Wing is on my TV over there right now. I just choose to think that Mike Casper and Phil Coulson are the same people, and they have been existing. That was Phil Coulson's first job. Like, he's an FBI agent. He worked for, ended up interfacing with President Bartlett, and President Bartlett clearly is the president in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's the way that goes. Or actually, at this point, Charlie Young is the president in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because that would be badass. Have I watched? Let's see. NES asks, have I watched Castle Rock so far, and how do I feel about it? I have watched it so far. I had seen the pilot before it dropped on Hulu. I saw a little bit of the third episode before it dropped, and I saw a very early cut of the sixth episode, which is the one I wrote. But I've been watching week by week, just as you have, because I haven't seen the finished version of a lot of those things. So yeah, I have been watching it, and I feel it's a weird thing. It's really odd, given that there's the stuff that I know we wrote in the show, like on the scripts, especially at this stage, and seeing how those things, like seeing what stayed and what changed, and things change all the time after scripts. I mean, there's stuff with like the actors, when the actors get involved, and then when production gets involved, and what's working on the stage and what isn't, what resources you have to deliver and don't. And then when you get into post and you see, actually, all right, well, we shot all this, and how does it stitch together? Does it all make sense? and all of that stuff changes. It's a living document until the audience gets to see it. So it is a weird experience, sort of revisiting the things that I know we did. Like memory compared with reality is always an odd thing, and that's kind of what this feels like. But I think it's a pretty strong show. I'm just saying. I mean, I am 100% biased, but I think that I think we maybe got there. Maybe. Yeah, we'll see. Who would play me in my life story? Uh, hmm. Idris Elba. Because why the hell not aim high? That was a question from Mr. Kevin Conroy. Let's see. Everywhere 001 asks, I would love your thoughts on the end of the Skywalker saga. Well, I don't think, I mean, we definitely don't know that we're at the end of the Skywalker saga. We don't know that, that what Kylo Ren tells Rey is true, that her parents were nobody from nowhere from nothing. I think I mean I think we definitely closed the chapter on the Skywalker saga, and I think that's a good thing because as much as I love Star Wars and Empire and Return of the Jedi, as much as I love Star Wars itself, it has always felt very insular to me that it is just the story of this one family. And there have to be other stories under these particular twin sons. So yeah, I'm hoping there's more. I'm hoping that the end of the Skywalker saga does mean the end of Star Wars, and there's no way that it does. But show me what the rest of this world looks like. You know, I mean, that's one of the reasons I was kind of excited about Rogue One, in that it didn't have anything to do really until the last 5 minutes with the Skywalkers at all. Like, just what's another story in this world? What are other people who live in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago like? So yeah, I hope we get there. And, you know, I know we get there, given that, as far as we know, most of the Skywalkers we know are dead. So yeah, although Kylo Ren is a Skywalker. So what? Anyway, the William Green wants to know if we and Kev will come to Seattle for a live Fat Man anytime soon. There is nothing on the books for Seattle, but we would love to go. Or at least I would love to go. I think Kev likes Seattle, so why would he not love to go? But that always comes down to, you know, we got to get booked. Like, somebody's got to decide that they want to, you know, either a convention or a venue needs to say, hey, we think we can make money selling tickets for a Fat Man on Batman. Let's pay pay those men their money, and then we'll come. I don't think we've said no to any offer that's come down the pike. So just got to convince your local purveyor of awesomeness to ask us. Let's see. The Peter Sherlock, what superhero property that hasn't been done yet would you like to see / work on? Well, let's see. Let me look at my giant wall of comic books here. And honestly, man, I would love to write on a Sandman TV show. Sandman was, in a very real way, one of the two books. It was the book that I loved the most when it first came out, and when I read it in singles and floppies, there was something about that story that just that spoke to me as a writer, especially because I was a journalist at the time. I was like trending towards journalism, and it unlocked a lot of things for me in the possibilities of what stories could do, you know, both in comics and anywhere else. Just, you know, Neil Gaiman built for himself a universe in which he could tell any story he wanted to tell. And the freedom to just decide, this month I want to talk about an African dream goddess, and this month I want to talk about a transgender teen in New York, and this month I want to talk about William Shakespeare, and this month I want to talk about the end of time. Like, all of those things could live within the universe that he built. So being able to play in that universe, being able to have the latitude and the freedom to go anywhere your mind might take you, that would be pretty badass. That'd be pretty badass. Let's see. Lito Montecristo says, I don't know a lot about Stephen King's books. Will I still enjoy Castle Rock? Absolutely. It was a series designed to both appeal to the people who are deep Stephen King fans, as well as people who've never read a Stephen King book before, but always sort of heard about it and like don't like to read or whatever. But the idea was to tell a story that was in the key of Stephen King. So less a cover and more like, oh, here's an unearthed song that Stephen King wrote that nobody ever heard before. And so it'll feel like King, and it'll operate like King, and it'll pay off like King without being, a check the boxes of Easter egg sort of thing. Let me see. Let's see. Javman05 wants to know, would I rather see Snyder's cut of Justice League or Lord Miller's cut of Solo? I would rather see Lord Miller's cut of Solo, and that is simply because Snyder left Justice League because of tragedy, which is, awful, and my heart still goes out to him for that. But the decision for him to leave was not one over creative differences. It was one over, bandwidth and his heart not being in it, and an artist's incapacity to make art. And that felt like it was a self-motivated decision, whereas Lord and Miller were fired. And so I kind of want to see what they were fired for. Like how, and I also want to hear what their initial pitch for Solo was. Like, what was the thing that made Kathleen Kennedy so excited? Like, yeah, no, give it to those guys. I want to hear what that pitch was, and I want to see what they shot and see what the powers that be felt was so egregious that they had to get fired for, which is different than the Snyder cut. So yeah, that's where I go. That's kind of where I want to be. Let's see. Adam Parks 94. Which genre film would make the best adaptation on a stage production? Adam, my man, here's my dream of all dreams. I have no Broadway experience. I have no theatrical experience. I've never written exeunt stage left on a page. But my dream of all dreams, if I ever get $1 billion and says, what would you like to do? I want to do a Flash Gordon Broadway musical, because that shit is crazy. That shit is so stage bound. Like, you look at that movie, everything is just like glistening stages and shiny floors and shimmering sheets and the most amazing Queen songs in the world. And the special effects are shitty, and that's fine. But that feels like if there's a 1-to-1 translation between like Broadway stage musical and movie, that for me is the closest thing. And it's so daffy and silly and stupid, but I love it to death, that I think that 1-to-1 of, can you replicate the feeling of watching that movie on a stage? Hell yeah. Like, can you get just giant screeching guitars in there? Hell yes. Like, I would, oh yeah, man, for sure. Would do it in a heartbeat. Bruce Fretz, who I worked with at Entertainment Weekly, is just congratulating me on, he watched my episode of Castle Rock. Whee! Thank you. I haven't seen it yet, so you're the only one. Essex Menace wants to know if I'm working on any new podcast ideas. Not really. Well, that's also not true. I am still trying, Trisha Helfer and I are still trying to make this Battlestar Galactica work. And it's not out of lack of enthusiasm or desire. Like, we both still want to do it, but it's working out the kinks with the podcast partner who still seems to want to do it. So we're now dealing with contracts, and contracts are the slowest things in the world. So yeah, I'm hoping that will happen. There had been a slight desire on my part. I realized the other day, and by the other day I mean like 4 months ago, that I have not seen nearly as many Akira Kurosawa movies as I feel like I should, given that he is 100% one of the 10 greatest directors to have ever worked in anywhere, like in the history of cinema. He is easily top 10, maybe even top 5. And I have only really seen 4 out of the 50 some odd movies he's made. And I feel bad for that. So I was thinking that maybe there's some kind of like, just watching Akira podcast in which I, watch an Akira Kurosawa movie every week and just talk about it. I don't know. Is that something you think people would care about? You tell me, Essex Menace. Would you listen to that? Even better, would you pay to listen to that? If Ghostbuster 0209, if I start a Man Back to the Future style movie, what song would I perform at the Under the Sea dance? Wow. Bring the Noise by Public Enemy. Bass! How low can you go? Death Row! Warner Brother No, once again back is the incredible Rhyme Animal, the unkillable D Public Enemy #1. 5-0 said freeze, and I got numb. I could keep going, but I'm not gonna. Robert Jackson, 1990. Will I try to get back into Gotham? Nah. Because here's the problem. There are, at any given time, 400 TV shows that I haven't seen yet. There's 75 of them that I've been told are amazing. And you need to, I'll admit it here, right now. I will admit publicly, I've never seen Breaking Bad. I saw the pilot, and that's it. I liked the pilot, but for whatever reason, did not keep watching. It's, as I've been told, the greatest show to ever exist on television. I cannot in good conscience not watch Breaking Bad, but return to Gotham, which I watched 2 seasons of and didn't really like. And I get it that sometimes shows get better. Sometimes shows evolve over time, and sometimes, they're doing good work that nobody might be watching. I am also, for some reason, still watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Why? Because it did get better, but I never stopped watching it. I just don't. I feel like once I dig into something and I'm watching it, and then for whatever reason I fall out of it or don't respond to it or it loses me, jumping back into that thing almost never happens. That's just me. Some people might absolutely be like, no, you told me it was good, so I checked back in, and you're right. 43 episodes later, it paid off. I don't have that time or that desire to, there's this great quote from Christopher Eccleston when he talked about wanting to come back for Doctor Who, or whether he would come back for Doctor Who for the 50th anniversary. And he said something like, I never walk in the same river twice. Which, also feels like artsy bullshit, but there is some validity there that, he did that thing. He gave it his all. He thought he did good work. And so move on. Mr. Kevin Conroy, who's my favorite Star Wars character? Han Solo. Yeah, it's Han Solo. I quite like Lando Calrissian. He is less a character for me because I don't, especially in Empire and Return of the Jedi, I don't really know. I mean, I know what he wants. He wants to just be left alone to run Bespin Cloud City, and he wants a little bit more power and a little bit more money. But it's still a little bit of the things that drive him don't seem to impact or dovetail with what Star Wars is about. And I think they tried to help tweak that a little bit with Solo, and they made him more interesting. But and hey, maybe JJ has some brilliant ideas on what Lando's been doing for the last 40 years. But no, Han Solo is my jam. Let's see. See, Popoli 1 wants to know if we're taking from the Robert Ludlum books for Treadstone. We are, much as Castle Rock is a story in the spirit of King, less an adaptation of actual King. I think that in the same with Treadstone, we are not pulling directly from the Ludlum books, but the idea is for it to feel like a Ludlum book, if that helps. Let's see. Another question from Mr. Kevin Conroy. What are my thoughts on the Buffy reboot? My one thought is I hope it's not a reboot because it's built into the story, like into every generation a Slayer must come. So we're just in a new generation. I don't necessarily want this character to be named Buffy because, there is a Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And so I think that just telling the next chapter in that story is, for me, more interesting, if for no other reason, so that in season 3, Allison Hannigan can show up as Willow, and that will make sense. I want a new cast of characters in that world with that sensibility, but like, why would you cut yourself off from the joy and the wonder of, oh shit, season 5 is about Giles? That's cool. Why would it not be about Giles? That's what I'm here for. So yeah, like I have no intelligence beyond they're making more Buffy, whether it's new Buffy or same old Buffy or just different thing. You know, there's more than one Slayer, so let's do more than one Slayer. Let's see. Michael Bookman wants to know, as a writer editor reading other people's work, what is my biggest grammar pet peeve? You know, like I am the worst editor in that I find it really hard to articulate why a thing I'm reading is wrong beyond the fact that I know that it's wrong, which pisses my son off to no end when he gives me his English homework to read, and I'm just like, that's not right. And it's like, I can't remember what a split infinitive is or an undangling participle, which sounds way dirtier than it is. It's just like I look at it and I can sense that it's not doing what it's supposed to do, or it's not as clear as it should be. Clarity is my biggest pet peeve. Do not be overly complicated or flowery, or like, just make your point known. Writing is about communication, and if you are trying to communicate a thought or an idea to somebody, make it so that it's unmistakable what your intent was and what the content, what the data you're trying to pass on is. The more you try for not clarity, the less it's effective as communication, and that's why you're here. Let's see. The Mooks Comics wants to know what British TV shows float my boat. I was a fan of Torchwood, especially Children of Earth. I like Luther quite a bit. I am a ride or die hardcore for the Great British Baking Show. Let's see. MI5 I liked. Ultraviolet I really liked back in the day. Doctor Who I am of a fan. Yeah, like I don't grind super deep on British TV. You know, Killing Eve was pretty fantastic. But you know, when I see it, I tend to like what I see, but I don't go like crazy deep in it. Let's see. Spends 417. Any word on when me and Kev are gonna sit down to do a commentary track on The Dark Knight? Fingers crossed. Hopefully soon. Soon would be amazing. Real CMJ, what episode are you named writer? I'm assuming that's of Castle Rock. Episode 6. I believe the episode is still called Filter. The Real Dork Knight, were you a born franchise loyalist before coming on board the show? How has that view changed from before to current? I was a born fan, for sure. I mean, it was part of my interview. Like, hey, did you watch the Bourne movies? Yes. Did you like the Bourne movies? Yes. Okay, check. I think the first 3 are still the best 3. I think Bourne Legacy loses some steam a little bit. Like it does that thing where you're answering questions the audience isn't asking, and so it's a tricky line between. There's a tricky line between deepening the understanding of the world that you're playing in and giving too much information. Like, I don't need midichlorians. I've never needed midichlorians. That is not why I tune up for Star Wars. Science, not why I'm there. Not a question I wanted answers to. Magic was still the best explanation for why things work in the Star Wars universe. I think Jason Bourne, the most recent one, is fine, but it doesn't have, you know, after a while, the question of who am I and what did they do to me for the same character doesn't sustain itself. And then just coming up with new questions for the same character that I've answered, like, you know, some stories need ends. So I don't, it is not my favorite of the 5 at this point, but I am still a big fan. Let's see. Jedman 2488. If Genius were to be adapted, what would be the best format for it? I feel like, I mean, it's a serial story. It is a serial story that has an ending. When there was just the first volume, Siege, like, that's a movie. That's totally a movie. Like, that I see what the 2-hour movie version of that looks like. But because it's a comic book, because we now have 2 cycles, and because we've done some of the work of thinking about where it could go later on, I kind of feel like its best destinies is a TV show. So yeah, fingers crossed we get to make that happen. Ex Jessica Faith X agrees with an earlier dude who thinks I should do voice acting. I have done so far one ever voice role, and it was for Kevin. It was for the Super Groovy Jay and Silent Bob Super Groovy cartoon movie. I was the mayor of, was it Redback? Maybe? No. It was the mayor of Asbury Park, I think. But hey, I would love to. That sounds super duper easy. Which I know it's not. I am sure that suddenly, like, the voice actor community will be like, fuck you, man, this is hard goddamn work. Which I 100% buy. But, you know, I can work in my sweatpants, which, yeah. Domino EEP, what's my favorite sports team? Let's see, New York Giants for football. I don't really have a favorite basketball team because the Knicks have broken my heart just enough times. Baseball, I'm a New Yorker, so I have to go Yankees, although my grandfather was Mets, and so that always made it weird. Hockey, nah, black dude. And is there any other fucking sport, the team sport that I watch? Not especially. So yeah, there you go. Blah 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 blum blum boom another question from Jessica Faith. Since working on Castle Rock, have you revisited any of Stephen King's work for inspiration? Or do we like to stay away from the source material? The first couple of weeks in the Castle Rock room were all research. We all like picked a book and read a book and then brought back to the group what we thought about that book, what was actionable and usable and inspirational. It was a lot of the early work in that room was about figuring out what makes Stephen King tick, you know, like getting under the hood and dissecting and realizing, oh, this is why people respond to Stephen King books. And I'm not going to give away that special sauce because hopefully I'll go back for season 2 and I got to use that. But yeah, we definitely, you know, swam in the world of Stephen King and you know, bathed in its glory and wonder and tried to squeeze some of that essence out onto the page. Ms. Danny Fernandez, the amazing Danny Fernandez. I've done so much. What is something you haven't done yet that you hope to accomplish or makes you excited? I am still committed to this idea of writing and directing a feature film before I turn 50 years old. Time is burning on me. I'm 46, so that leaves me a couple of years, but those things can take time. But that is still a dream I have that someday I will be able to make that happen. Things seem to be getting in the way, amazing things, wonderful things that are taking time away from pursuing that. Because it turns out that part of the joy of living the dream is that the dream gets in the way of other dreams. So yeah, but I still, fingers crossed, want to get that done. I really would like to. Ghostbuster 0209, again, what's one of your proudest moments being a dad? It's, you know, the moments that I have, the proud moments that I have are not ones of like, hey, you won a medal, because, you know, I'm not that guy. Like, achievement is not the thing that makes me go. So it's moments when, you know, I see gestures of kindness on the parts of my kids towards other kids. It's milestones being hit that are not about numbers in a way, you know, like it's when it's just, hey, you know, you did that thing that you knew was hard, but you still did it anyway. You figured that out. Yeah, it's those things. It's the did we raise a good human? Not did we raise a good athlete or whatever. So yeah, like it's those little things. Let's see. Domino EEP. Who shot JFK? I think the cinematographer was Tak Fujimoto, maybe. I don't know. I don't have deep grind in my head. Sorry, Domino. I wish I knew more. Strange one, but how would I Wes Pritchard, 84, how would I reboot the Ghostbusters universe? I don't need one, man. Not everything needs a universe. We had one amazing movie. Sometimes I'm fine with that. Sometimes, it's never going to be better than that. So if you're going to do it, make it different or don't do it at all. Just leave it be. I can still turn on Ghostbusters. It still all works. Let's see. Hey, Adam. How you doing? Mike Moorhead, 37. What do I think of the Venom trailers? I do not need a Venom movie. I just don't. I understand why they're making one because, you got to keep the Spider-Man IP alive. You've got to keep making movies in that universe to have the rights to make movies in that universe. But there's no part of that character that I'm enthused by or energized to go out of my house to go see. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. J Hill 1181. Am I encouraged or discouraged by the current pace in which more diverse types of people get the opportunity to tell stories from different points of view? I am encouraged and yet disheartened. I'm encouraged when I get to see things like Crazy Rich Asians. I get to see, oh, hey, it's a giant studio motion picture that is written and directed by an entirely starring Asian Americans or Asian Brits or Asian actors and Asian talent. Because, again, have to be careful. It's not Asian American if you're from London. Idris Elba is not African American, FYI. So I'm thrilled to see that stuff because I understand there's an audience that never gets to see it. But I'm disheartened when I'm also on the flip side of that realize that there have been two other movies in the last 40 years that have similar stories. Better Luck Tomorrow and Joy Luck Club. And how that's possible given the fact that there are, especially today when China and Japan are such heavy audiences for the work that Hollywood makes, that they are not just leaning into it. It's like, hey, let's make more content for that. While the Asian American population in America is not as large as the African American population, it's still a robust population. It is still a underserved audience that will happily show up and happily give you money for their movies. And you know what? Other people will too. I feel like progress is happening at a faster rate than it's ever happened before, but it's still far too slow because there's still far too far to go. So yeah, I think we're making progress, but not fast enough. Augustin F93. Do I wear Birkenstocks? Nope. Not a hippie. Sorry. Let's see. Wilt, R.A. Wiltberger, favorite movie. Aliens, I think, is still, for me, the best movie I've ever seen. It is flawless. And nothing about it is dated, and everything about it fires on every cylinder that it has. So yeah. And I do love Raiders of the Lost Ark to death. Let's see. Blah, 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 bloop, blah, bleep, bloop, bloop, bloop. Everywhere 001 are films like Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets too ambitious to become the next big thing for a broad audience? I don't think it's ambition. I don't think ambition is the problem. I think, because Mad Max Fury Road is ambitious as fuck. It is the most ambitious thing I've ever seen. And there's this great quote by Steven Soderbergh where he watched it and he says, I don't understand how a dozen people didn't die every day on that set. It is a mind-blowing piece of cinema. And it's ambitious as hell. It's giant and big, and they went into that without a script. They were sort of making it up visually and telling that story visually. It is nothing but raw, uncut ambition. I think the problem with Valerian is that they forgot to to make it a story, to ground it in character, you know, in a way that makes you care about all of that shit. You know, if the world is going to be insane, then the story needs to be simple. And if the story is going to be insane, then the world needs to be simple. But I think that the viewer can only hold on to one set of insanity at a time. And Valerian didn't do that. You know, I mean, Valerian is beautiful to look at, but it's not in service of very much. So I think if you can figure out a way to do that, then, hey, you can do whatever the hell you want. But unless you crack that, then I don't know. Let's see. Just Stool 78 with Game of Thrones having wrapped the actors. When do you think we'll get the next season? The last season. How excited am I for it? I think they've already given us a release date. I think it's like July 2019. Summer 2019 is when the final season premieres. And I'm super excited for it. I love Game of Thrones. Even when I don't love it, I still love it. And there's times that, you know, I don't love it. I don't love everything. But on the whole, I'm a Game of Thrones fan. So, and I cannot wait to see where this ends up. And then I will get to finally go back and read the books and see where George R. R. Martin would have had it end up, and get to live in that sweet duality of two diverging paths in the woods. Demented 6 gamer. What was my favorite part of being a part of Castle Rock? Being on set and getting to feel the awesome responsibility of having written words on a page that other people are making real. And I remember we were shooting a lot of nights on my episode, and there was definitely a beat where it's, you know, 3:00 in the morning, and we're in the middle of the woods in deep Massachusetts, and it's 40 degrees out, and I felt guilt at having written on a page exterior woods night instead of exterior woods day, and that guilt is real. Let's see. What else we got? What answer? Tangerine Joey. What are my thoughts on the Cloak and Dagger TV show? I quite like the Cloak and Dagger TV show. I wasn't sure at first. I haven't seen the finale yet. So I'm only 9 into the 10. I feel like the lives of those teenagers are real, and I feel like I understand who they are. And I get all of the dualities of the two of them. It's a show about duality. The thing that lost me for a while was the vocabulary of the show was imprecise, in that I didn't know when there was like a vision or a memory or teleportation, and it didn't give me enough cues as to what am I supposed to feel about where I am right now. And that's a big thing for a show. A show has to teach you how to watch it. It needs to teach you how to tell, how to decipher the language of it. You know, The Wire is weird that way, because The Wire was the first show that was that serialized, that was that ongoing. Like, no other show had really been as, oh, we're not paying off things every episode. That we're gonna set a mystery in episode 2 that won't pay off until episode 8, and that long throw is part of the joy of watching the show. It was teaching you how to watch it as it went. But I think that, you know, Cloak and Dagger didn't do that quite as effectively as it should have early on. But by the time it got to the oil rig episode, I think there was a 6th episode, where the weirdness of, it's the time loop episode that every science fiction show does at some point, that the emotional nature of it paid off, and it dovetailed nicely with the sort of science fiction nature of it. And so, like, I like those leads. I like that world. New Orleans is a really interesting place to shoot that show, because you get the texture of that city. And it's not also like the popular New Orleans. It's the New Orleans off the beaten path. But yeah, like, I kind of liked it. I like this YA version of Marvel quite a bit. Like, I liked Runaways a lot, and I like Cloak and Dagger a lot. So yeah, and I like those two speeds of Marvel TV. So yeah, I'm a fan. I am a fan. Adam Parks 94. What was it like working with J.J. Abrams? I have never met J.J. Abrams. I think he knows who I am, but he would not recognize me in a crowd. So yeah, someday soon, my prince will come. I swear to God. Let's see. Boop, 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 boop. It is Goodman. My favorite part of Batman and Batman is when you cast a film or TV series. Do I get to sit in or watch the auditions for the episodes you write? Yes. On Alphas, I did, and so much of that stuff is now just coming in on tapes. It's no longer that stereotypical, hey, here's, a bunch of people sitting in a hallway to read for a role. It is now, here's, 8 video clips you get to watch and say, which of these actors do you think would be best? It is always weird at the beginning of a show, when they're casting the major roles. There's, depending on the show, like the showrunner could decide, I know who I want, or I want to make this decision alone. And then some shows it's, hey, everybody, what do we think about this? Who's the best person for that? And that's super fun. Like, I have the best time being like, oh, man, you know who'd be the best sheriff? That guy. Oh, yeah, he's pretty cool. Can't get him, but somebody like that would be great. It's a lot of fun. Let's see. Greetings from Brazil. Hola. Can you put? Did I watch Orphan Black? If so, did you like it? I watched the first 3 seasons and then it got a little too confusing for me. I love the first season. The first season of Orphan Black is one of my favorite seasons of TV because the mystery is so clear, the character's drive for what she wants is so clear. Who am I? Who are these other people? Who did this to us? That's all fantastic stuff. And Tatiana Maslany is, that is still one of my favorite performances ever. Because there's so much work. And to make that all real and to make it all distinct. It's astonishing. The fact that she never won an Emmy for that is, one more reason that the Emmys are ridiculous. That awards are ridiculous. As I look in my ink pot, which is totally ridiculous too. Super Evil Empire. Are you a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Legend of Korra? Fuck yes. Avatar: The Last Airbender is, for my money, one of the 20 best TV shows ever made. It is doing a thing that kids TV had never really done before, at least American kids TV. It is doing a thing that it's as deep and as dense and as rich as Game of Thrones is. It just happens to have kids in it. But it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Zuko is one of the best villains I've ever seen. There's so much. Fucking Saga, making that character make sense. He's the Xander of Avatar, but he's necessary. It's amazing. It's amazing. I discovered that Nickelodeon had been rerunning them all recently, so I just set the DVR for it and have been just wallowing in the glory of nothing but Avatar for the last couple of weeks. Let's see. And also, Super Evil Empire, is animation like that a better medium for a lone wolf and cub than a TV series? No. I want to go to feudal Japan. I want to get an amazing cast of Japanese actors, and I want to do that for real. I want to see Lone Wolf and Cub for real. Michael J.W. Jones, favorite barbecue sauce, Sweet Baby Ray's. Let's see. Everywhere 001. Any story left to tell for the Matrix franchise? I'm sure there is. I don't know what that is because, much like Star Wars, as we know what Star Wars is about the Skywalker family, there has to have more story than that, but I don't know what that looks like yet. There have to be more stories in that universe than Neo. So I'm not sure what that is. I think there's totally a prequel with Michael B. Jones as Morpheus and what that is like, what it's like realizing, that your destiny is to find Jesus and to turn away from that calling, to embrace that calling, all of that stuff. Yeah, I think that's up there. Fifty Shades of Plague, Creamy or Crunchy Peanut Butter. Creamy, man. Fuck that, yeah. Charlotte, 42. I'm put in charge of DC Films. What do you do? I hire amazing filmmakers. I hire amazing filmmakers who have stories they want to tell. I empower them to tell those stories. I liberate them from the necessity to tell a universe and to just find a great story. I think trying to compete at this level, at this stage with Marvel is a mistake. So find your own path, because it can't also be that path. Hire the best people, get out of their way is I think the key. Let's see. Family duty calls from the Real Dark Knight. How do I best manage family work life? I probably don't do it very well, because the thing I end up sacrificing is my own stuff. So it's the work is 9 to 6, family is 7 to 11, and then the work again is like 11:30 to 1, and there is precious little time for me to do anything else for myself, which I need to figure out a way to do. But yeah, that's that. Everywhere 001 again. Can films based on video games work? Absolutely. I think that the problem is you need to divorce the game experience from the film experience. I've seen far too many video game movies where they try to give you the same feel. Like, oh no, now we're going to slip into first person. Oh no, now we're going to do this thing. Oh no, now she's going to dodge and swim. Ooh, 2 guns. That is not ultimately what will make it work. It's what about this character is interesting? What about this world is interesting? And then how do you make those things dovetail? It is not about fighting the same bosses. It is not about, the same mechanics. It is about making the best movie you can. Dan Lee Comics, do I struggle with depression, anxiety disorders? And if so, how do I manage a creative workload on top of that? I am blessed that I do not struggle with depression, anxiety disorders. I struggle with imposter syndrome, which is I am not any good at this. Every day I get up and I try to write, and it's not working the way I think it should be working. And everybody will find out that I'm just a fraud and a charlatan, and they will bust me and fire me, and then I will go back to doing the things that I don't want to do. That's different from depression and anxiety for sure, and they are in no way in the same league. So I have nothing but empathy for people, and nothing but admiration for people who manage to wrestle those demons, even temporarily, into submission in order for them to get on with the process of making good stuff. But I am not one of those people. Let's see. Hayden Hayes Pugh. What are the differences between writing a script for a comic versus a television series? Comic scripts are the hardest things in the world I've ever written. Because if you're writing a TV show or a movie, there's a format to follow, and that format is immutable. A screenplay looks like a screenplay, a teleplay looks like a teleplay. Those beats are the same, and you can kind of diagnose what that looks like. There is no one set format for comic book script, so you could read a dozen of them and they'll all be different. And, you get from the giant biblical tomes that Alan Moore writes for his artists or Neil Gaiman write for their artists, to the crazy sparse, just like, tone poems that some other, writers will write. You've got to find your own path for how it best makes sense for you. And just the math of comic book writing is harder. Like you are not just in a screenplay I can write, Timmy gets out of his car, walks up to the front door, rings the bell, somebody answers, Julie answers the door, and they kiss and walk inside, and they start fucking. I can write that on a page, and that is all a thing that a cinematographer will say, all right, well, the camera's going to move, and we're going to follow this all. It's 2 or 3 shots, but, whatever. Or it can just be one shot. One single camera move can convey all of that. In comics, you can't do motion. There's no way to do Tim gets out of his car, walks up the stairs, rings the bell, the door opens, and he kisses a girl. How many panels is that? A panel is a still image. So how many panels do you need to tell that story? How many can you do it in 2 or 3 long shots? Is it all super tight close-ups? Some of that is the artist's responsibility, of course, but you as the writer still need to give a roadmap, to give a little bit of a blueprint. It is so hard to realize that you as the writer have to dissect and display in tiny fractions of time. You're choosing the pictures you're going to tell. And then once you do that, it's all right, well, now how many balloons is on this page? How many words fit in a balloon? Then it becomes math in a weird way. It is all of the problems of dramaturgy plus cinematography plus arithmetic. It's really hard to do. I love it to death, but it's hard to do. Let's see. The Lep Hill. Cable television came with a formula. Every commercial break had a reveal or cliffhanger and an episode and wrapped up the story. Does Netflix and Amazon TV shows suffer from not having this? There's no greater bane in the life of a television writer than false jeopardy. And that is all that commercial breaks do. It's not just cable TV. That's a network TV thing. I mean, network TV exists because it had been sponsored by, Tide or General Mills. The Ford Playhouse Theater presents Henry Fonda in Gunsmoke or whatever. Commercials are the reason why television exists. Cable TV, pay cable TV, premium cable TV gets away with not having commercials by charging you up front and making you pay for that stuff. But, every 8 minutes you have to create some false jeopardy in order to quote unquote retain the viewer from not changing channels. That much false jeopardy is hard to do because it's always false, because your hero is not going to die in the middle of the show. The mystery is not going to get solved. The culprit of the murder is not going to get caught in Act 3. That's just not the way TV works. That's not the way stories work. So having to create that kind of false jeopardy is rough to do. The benefit of that, the added bonus of that, is it gives you a rhythm. It gives you a rising and falling sense of escalation, which even in a premium cable show like Game of Thrones, it still has. There's still a rhythm to every episode of that show. It's not just 40 minutes of bullshit waiting for 5 minutes of resolution. But you can take more time with that. You can layer stuff better. You can let the drama play. You can have scenes. You can have 8-minute scenes of fucking Cersei and Tyrion just talking. And it's amazing because these are great actors doing great work. You don't have to fake your way through it. So I don't think it's a question of suffering. I think it's a question of different. Let's see. Dean Cinematic Movie Maker. Do I ever use elements that I thought were cool from an abandoned screenplay for a new screenplay? One of the first people I met in Hollywood when I had declared even for myself that I wanted to write TV was a guy named John Rogers, who at the time was running Leverage, and oh man, they're giving me a 2-minute countdown. The fuck? Anyway, John said to me, use every part of the buffalo. Writers use every part of the buffalo. If there's a thing you liked, if there's an action beat that you liked, if there's a character you liked, nothing is dead if nobody had ever seen it before. So yeah, there's a bunch of strip mining I've done to old stuff to bring it on to new stuff. Yeah. Let's see. Domino EP. Ever listen to Fish? Nah, man. I need songs. Trying to find a question that I haven't been asked. Waiter Tots. How long do I think the MCU should go? I think every story needs an end. I think the story that doesn't have an end is a story that nobody ultimately wants to listen to or to see or to watch. How long that should go, I'm not sure. I don't know what the stories are after Infinity War. I don't know how many different ways you can pull this taffy, but it needs an end. Nothing can go on in perpetuity and have it be emotionally resonant and have it deliver the kind of emotional, physical, just spiritual resonance you need it to if there's no ending. So I think it needs to. I think this might have to be it, guys. I got 30 seconds to wrap up. this will not be the last time I do this because this was kind of fun. So listen, for Fat Man on Batman, I have been Marc Bernardin in my office talking about Castle Rock and Treadstone and writing and barbecue and all the amazing things. Stay tuned next week. Same fat time, same fat channel. Smodcast.com or youtube.com/Kevin Smith. Peace out, you guys.